Okay, so I'm going to try and start with a joke. Okay. So John Kerry is traveling the world. Don't get involved in politics. It's just a name you know. Okay. So he's traveling the world and he's going to visit religious leaders. So he stops off in the Vatican and he's meeting with the Pope. And as he's sitting across the desk from the Pope, he sees this very unusual looking device. So he asks the Pope, what is this? The Pope says, well, this is a telephone to God. He says, really? You know, he says, is it go to heaven? He says, yeah, of course, God in heaven. He says, well, I have a few people I like to call, people who've passed on. Can I do that? Pope says, absolutely, just leave $10 for every phone call. Okay, he makes a few phone calls. He's continuing on. He ends up in Israel. He's visiting Netanyahu. And he says, you know, I recognize this. There's one of these in the Vatican. This is a phone to heaven, right? He says, absolutely. He says, can I make a phone call? There are a couple people I forgot. He says, okay, just leave $10 for every phone call. Okay, he makes his calls. He comes to Boca Raton, comes to meet in the Kabbalah Center, sitting across the desk. He sees the same thing. He says, you know what? There is one more person I've forgotten. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I know this is a phone to heaven. He says, absolutely. He says, okay, I'll make a couple phone calls. Is that okay? I said, yeah, sure, but leave 50 cents for each phone call. 50 cents? He says, the Pope charged me $10. In Israel, they charged me $10. I said, yeah, but from the Kabbalah Center, it's a local call. Don't worry, I'm not leaving this, right? This is my job. All right. Yeah, great. Okay. So on that note, we are talking about a phone call to heaven, a telephone to heaven, a telephone to God. As I wrote on Facebook, that's what we want to understand, because think about it. If you had a phone to God, if you really had a cell phone to God or a telephone to God, how would your life be different? What would you be asking? What would you be doing that would make your life better? That's what we want to keep in mind, and we want to realize, as the Kabbalists teach us, it already exists. We already have a phone to God. It was given to us in the creation of this world. It already exists. The problem is that tradition got it mixed up. And since we've all come from one tradition or another, that's why we're still not sure. Maybe we believe, maybe we don't, but that really is the issue of this morning. To understand what does it mean, the phone to God, or a phone call to God, or as in the 72 names, dialing God. And that's where we want to start. So in order to start, we want to see the big picture of things. As the Kabbalists teach us, the thought of creation, and I want you to understand the power of this statement. If the Creator had a single thought, what would happen instantaneously with that thought? It would completely manifest. Because the Creator is beyond time, space, and motion. There's nothing that would stop that from taking place. So the Kabbalists teach us that the thought of the Creator was one simple thing: to give every one of us, every one of its creations, total and absolute bliss. You don't look happy yet. Total and absolute bliss. There we go. Exactly. So then, as we said, then it must have already been given. Because the Creator can't say, not like you and me. We could say, you know what, I'll meet you here and there, or I'll give you this, but give me a second even. There's not even a second in the Creator. It's instantaneous. So then we understand, Kabbalistically, that it's already been given to us. And what does that mean for us? We were created in that thought. In the endless world, before the physical universe existed, the Creator had the thought to give endless bliss. And what is that made up of? What we call the light of God. The light of God is the source of all and endless bliss. So then from the Creator's point of view, we were created and we were filled with this endless light. So now think about it. The Creator's light, when does it stop shining? Never. It shines eternally. It's never stopped shining, and we've already received that endless light of endless bliss. So this is the first step to shift us out of the old tradition that's got it a little off into Kabbalistic technology. From the Creator's point of view, then, everything is done. Think about it. From the Creator's point of view, there's nothing more for the Creator to do. It's already shining 100% eternally. It's light, endless light, source of endless bliss. So then what more is there? What else can the Creator do? Nothing. So then the job now has been handed off to us. Because you and I basically asked, or were given, if you will, in the endless world, the ability to be co-creators. We were given free will. We said, I want to create my total bliss with the light that you've given me. So then, here's the first step. Who created the physical universe? We did. We did. Don't look to God. Yes, we all use the infinite light of God to do what we do. But it's we are the ones who decide what form it will take. So we created this physical world to give us ways and means to express our light. Because that's all it takes. I mean, think of it. If you have all the light inside you, and you look out at your life and you don't see light, you don't see all the blessings, then what's missing? Is it the Creator didn't do something, or is it that we didn't shine our light? It's we didn't shine our light. So the beauty of that is, then what do we have to do? If we're seeing a spot of darkness in our world, in our life, shine our light. Like everything in the physical world, wherever you turn on light, darkness goes away. So that's up to us. We're the ones. So if it's so simple, if it's so easy, why aren't we all doing it? And that's where we get into now. We start to shake things up a little bit. So how many of you ever heard somebody say to you, usually after they made some mistake, and you call them on the mistake, and they look at you and say, well, Chaim, I'm only human. You ever heard that phrase? I'm only human. Are we? Think of it. Is the Creator human? Creator's not human. So if the Creator created us in the endless world, can we be human? No, we can't be. We are divine beings. We are the ones who created the human body. We are the ones who decided to come into the physical world and have that infinite pure light take on all the form of physicality. We decided. So yes, in this world we have two natures. We have the nature of the soul, which is divine. We have the nature of the body, which is human. But we also have free will. So who decides which one is going to control which? Who decides which one is going to be dominating? We do. Sadly, most of us, not so much us here anymore, that's what we're changing here, but most of the people in the outside world, what dominates what? The body consciousness is dominating the soul consciousness. The human is dominating the divine. And that's why there is such chaos in the world, because by blocking or not allowing their light to shine, if light doesn't shine, what are we left with? Darkness. And in the darkness is all the types of chaos we can imagine. I mean, if I ask you to close your eyes right now, can you imagine just one type of chaos? Or many types of chaos? Many. So then if we are the co-creators, we are the ones who have, by blocking our light, not allowing our light to shine, we are the ones who have allowed all the forms of chaos. Because every human being on earth has an imagination of some kind of chaos. And every person on earth takes the light of their soul and in one way or another behaves perhaps with a little ego, a little fear, a little anxiety, a little frustration, a little resentment. Yes or yes? Look at you and I, some of the best people on earth, and we still have a little bit, don't we? A little frustration, a little anger, a little, thank goodness it's only a little bit. But you imagine if you take that same mold and you start enhancing it with 7 billion people's light, it can be all the chaos we see in the world today. But at the same time, if we can switch consciousness, that everybody starts to awaken the light inside them and shining their light into their life with a little bit more of kindness and compassion and generosity and humility and forgiveness and tolerance, then how many of you and I can imagine what heaven on earth would look like? Can you only imagine one nice way to deal with people, or many? Many. So let's start putting that in our consciousness and let's start shining that out into the world, because like will activate light. So as we will send light out to the world, as we will act with greater kindness and compassion and love and forgiveness towards all humanity, guess what's going to start coming back to us? Guess what's going to start multiplying out in the world? The very same thing. Because we are co-creators. We have that power of light. Now, why is it so difficult? So some of you have heard this before, some of you taken the classes. Because our human nature and our divine nature are both centrally located in every human being. Right here, between the ears. We have the voice of the divine, and we have the opposite voice. The voice of the divine is telling us to do all the good things. Love, kindness, humility, forgiveness, tolerance, gratitude, appreciation. But we have that other voice that allows us to have free will that's telling us the opposite and gives us all the justification. I mean, come on, you and I, when we get a little upset and we get a little frustrated and we let that out, is it without justification? No, we all have justification for why we get a little upset. But on a spiritual level, Kabbalistically, there's no justification. Doesn't mean they didn't do what they did. Doesn't mean that they didn't do something offensive. But remember, if we are co-creators, we're the ones who are deciding what our life will look like after that. So then we have to stop and think. Do I want to create a world of harmony and peace for myself? Do I want to lead myself towards total bliss? Or do I mind, or not mind, going the opposite way for a moment of temporary satisfaction? Because boy, when I scream at that driver in front of me from the safety of my own car, I feel real good. I feel powerful. They frustrated me, so now screaming at them makes me feel good. The trouble is, like all of us here in this room, 5 minutes after you scream at them, do you still feel good, or now you feel a little bad? You look at yourself, you look in the mirror and you say, why did I do that? I know that's not the best way to behave. I know that's not the real me. But there are people out there that the 5 minutes could be 50, 60, or 100 years until they feel it. But you and I are deciding our destiny with every behavior, with every action. And that's why we're learning here to be more conscious of our actions and not allow that voice in our head to justify anything that's not pure light behavior. Because what do we want to come back to us? Light and blessings, and we want to achieve all that bliss. So now, can you imagine if the Creator said, I want you to have total and absolute bliss? Is it not make sense to you that there has to be a ways and means, a system, a technology for every human being on earth to have that bliss? No matter which direction we go. Like from here, you leave here, let's say we were all going to travel from here down to Coral Gables. And we picked a destination down there, so we're all going to meet at a certain place in Coral Gables. Do we all have to drive the same route? No. But the system is set up of the streets that no matter which route we go, if we've set our destination for that particular place in Coral Gables, will we all be able to end up there? Yes, but we'll all go our own routes. So there has to be a universal system that allows everyone to operate in their own way, but also ultimately end up in that same destination, because that's what the Creator said. The Creator's original thought was, I want to give you total and absolute bliss. And I'm giving you the light to make sure it can happen. And I'm giving you the technology, all the system to make sure it can happen. And what is the name of that system? It's called the Zohar, Kabbalah. It is the universal system for everybody. Just like, they always say there are many paths to the top of the mountain. So we can all start wherever we want, and we all have started. Do you and I all look like we came from the same family? Did we all grow up in the same household or even the same neighborhood? No. So we all started at different places around the base of that mountain. But where have we all ended up? Right here. So there are many paths up the mountain. But the beauty is the mountain itself is the Zohar and Kabbalah. And that's why no matter who you are and what your background, all the students around the world of all the different backgrounds, they all find something in common. Because whatever you're learning here is the root of what's out there. Like the mountain. Is the mountain in common all the routes that we could take to the top of the mountain? Yes, but each route may look a little different. But they have at its source the mountain in common. The Zohar is that common factor. It is the blueprint of the universe, and that's why we can make use of it. Every human being on earth to make our lives better. And that's what we're here to do. So then the telephone to God is based on this system. Unfortunately, remember that voice in our head? Over years and generations, it has changed that idea. Because when you and I are in a tough spot, what is the traditional thing to do? Pray. But how have we learned to pray? God. It's Chaim calling. I need, give me, please, I beg you. Or the better one. Hi, God. Yes, it's Chaim. I just want to tell you how great and wonderful you are. You've been so fantastic, so amazing. I bless you. I, your creation, am blessing you, the Creator. Now that I blessed you, now that I praised you, now that I tell everybody how great you are, I want you to give me what I want. That's not traditional prayer. And please, I'm not being disrespectful to religion. What I'm making an effort to do is wake us up so that we can achieve what we were originally meant to achieve. But we've got to realize how it's been taken off course. I mean, again, if we go from here to Coral Gables, the system in America has already been set up, has it not? So if we wanted to, could you not go from here to Coral Gables via New Orleans? Yes, but it'd be a little ridiculous, wouldn't it? Unless you had something to do there. But if we were in a hurry to get to Coral Gables, going off in New Orleans would be a little bit silly, a little ridiculous. But you can go. And once you're in New Orleans, if you realize you're not in Coral Gables, the system is still available and accessible to do what? Get you back to Coral Gables. So all roads lead from where we started to total and absolute bliss. The question is, do we want to go the direct route or do we want to go that route, the far and wide? But because we have to have free choice, there are temptations to go the far and wide. There are temptations to go off the road. There are temptations to be a little resentful or angry or even look in the mirror and be insecure. Tell me that you don't have a reason to look in the mirror like I do sometimes and feel insecure about something. But we're here learning. The Creator gave us everything. We're filled already with absolute divinity. So what's there to be insecure about? Nothing, but that voice in our head gives us reasons and justification. So when you go back to tradition, you say, okay, I need the help of the Creator. It's true. Is that not based on fact? If the light that's been given to us is the source of our bliss, then the light is the only power we can make use of. So we need the support of the light. But to look at the Creator and say, no, God, please give me, what did I just infer? I inferred the Creator's not giving. But you and I know light never stops shining. The light has been shining eternally. It's only up to us to make use of the light. So we can't ask the Creator to give us something already given. We can't ask the Creator to do something that's already been done. It's already been done. It's up to us. That's the power of Kabbalistic prayer. So then, how do we activate the power of the Creator? If it's already inside of us, we don't need to get it from the Creator. We don't have to walk around just praising God. Thankful, yes. But to praise God, like flattering God so God will do for us, doesn't speak very highly of the Creator, does it? If I have to flatter a person to get something from them, doesn't speak very highly of the person, no less the Creator. And the Creator is infinite perfection. Otherwise, we could never be perfect. But we're already perfect. So then we have to look, how are we going to activate the power of the Creator inside of us? And this goes to the idea of dialing God. But it's not dialing God in heaven. It's dialing God inside of us. So the most powerful way, as we do every Sunday actually, is using what's called holy names. Like this here, we do every Sunday. We use one of the 72 names of God. Now, how many of you have ever read any part of the Bible? Bless you. Genesis, Exodus, right? You see God is mentioned quite a bit, right? Moses spoke to God, Abraham spoke to God, Jesus spoke to God, this one spoke to God, etc. How many names does God have? In the 5 books of Moses, we only know God. Or, if you read carefully, you have God, Lord God, God Almighty. Okay, but in the Kabbalistic Bible, when you go back to its original Aramaic, there are 10 names for God in the 5 books of Moses. And that's why you can have a story like this that makes no sense unless you do look at it Kabbalistically. You remember the story of Moses going to Pharaoh, right? God tells Moses, look, the Israelites are trapped in Egypt. You're going to go to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and you're going to tell him, let my people go. So Moses walks in. If you only read it in English, it makes no sense. He walks in and he says, Pharaoh, God sent me to tell you to free the Israelites. And Pharaoh says, I don't know your God. But if Pharaoh knew and had the power to do what he did, what do you mean he doesn't know your God? God is God. But if you look in the Aramaic, the original, Moses comes with one name of God called the Tetragrammaton, right? The Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. And Pharaoh, being on a different level than Moses, he didn't know that name. Pharaoh knew how to control everything in the physical world, but he didn't know how to achieve divine revelation. He knew how to control this world. So he knew the name of God, if you will, that relates with this world. Moses came with the name of God higher. So if we're in chaos, if we see some darkness in our life, which name do we need? The one that we've already been making use of, or one on a somewhat higher level? We need a higher level. So that's how we were able to free ourselves from Egypt. Because Moses came in with a higher energy. And that's why Pharaoh said, I don't know that name. Like so many of us, how many of you have any question, any decision to make in your life right now, and you don't know what to do? You're not sure which way to go. So why? Because you're all good people. You've already done nice things. You've been kind, compassionate, generous in various ways. So why don't you see what to do? You need yet a higher level. So one aspect is simply using the names of God. So we have this frame, we have the 72 names of God, we have the 10 names of God that are written in the 5 books of Moses, we have Kabbalistically something called the 42-letter name of God, we have the 22-letter name of God, we have the entire Zohar. According to the Kabbalists, every word in the Zohar is a holy name of God. And that's why it says the Zohar can remove all the pain and suffering from the world forever, universally. Because it doesn't matter who we are or what language we know. Our soul is already filled with the light. The Zohar is that light to awaken the Creator inside of us. That's the power. So that's the first thing we need to do, is start using the holy names. Now, does that mean you shouldn't pray in English? I just want to make it clear. No, because praying in English, as many of you do, will go to the second part of the idea of dialing God. First is, you need the telephone. The telephone basically are those 72 names, the Zohar, the 42-letter name, etc. That's the phone. But when you get on the phone and you need to speak, what are you really speaking? What are we really talking about? Consciousness. We're talking about a shift of consciousness, because consciousness is the thing that will empower the light. If we already have all the light inside of us, and we even start to use, like we do every week, one of the 72 names, or you're reading from the Zohar or scanning the Zohar, how come the infinite light that's in your soul doesn't come out completely? Because we've been blocked. We're blocked with our anger, our jealousy, our greed, our ego, our fear, our insecurities. Those things are blocking, like curtains hiding our light from shining out. So then, bless you. So we need to use the names to help us take the curtains away, but we also have to have the consciousness how to remove them forever with the light. So then consciousness, and that's why we affirm, consciousness is everything, because it's directing the light that's awakened by the use of the names. So when we want to speak to God, when we want to have that divine inspiration or revelation, it's not drawing it out of heaven and awakening God. It's awakening it from within us. Because the light, being that it's always shining, it's available to us all the time. But we have to activate it and then we have to shine it. So the consciousness determines the intensity of the light. So if you're sitting back and you're saying, okay, I'm going to scan like we do or meditate, but there's a part of your mind still given over to that other side, and you're wondering, I'm not sure it's working. Is it really working? Can it really be that easy? How can it be so easy? Right? Look at the world. There's so many smart people. They must be smarter than me. All those excuses we give ourselves. So what are we doing? It's like we're turning on the light. I always liken it to this. It's a little different. You're driving your car. You put it in gear. You put your foot on the gas to move. But at the same time, you're pulling the handbrake. Is the car going to go as fast as it could? No. Why? because it doesn't have power, you're activating the power in it. You've turned it on, you're pushing the gas, it's in gear. The difference is you got the brake. So our own negativity that's still accumulated is like that brake. So then if our consciousness is still saying, I'm not sure, I'm not happy, I still have anger, I still whatever, it's like holding the brake while we're scanning and meditating with the names, while you're scanning the Zohar, etc. So that's why the two have to come together. Consciousness is everything. But without the light of the holy names, then consciousness won't direct anything, because we didn't turn on any light. So they go together. Turn on the light and have the consciousness. Now, once we've had the consciousness of the light, then how will we behave? And this is the third prong of our three-prong attack at chaos. If you have God consciousness, if you have light consciousness, you're scanning, you're using the names, you have the consciousness that you can achieve and you want to achieve peace and harmony in your life, what will it look like when you leave your house? You'll be peaceful, but then when the guy on the road does what they did yesterday that irritated you a little bit, are you going to be the same or are you going to be different now? If you're going to be the same, guess what you're going to end up at the end of the day? The same. If you want different, then you also have to be different. So as you're awakening the light inside you, as you're working on shifting your consciousness to be more light-like because the power is in your hands, in our hands, then the more you're going to send light to that person on the street, you're going to send light to the person at work, you're going to send light to the people at home, you're going to send light to the people that you're watching on the news, then at least first and foremost, your life is better. Because there's more light shining from you, which means more light reflecting back. Remember the man in the mirror? So if you're shining more light out, what shines back to you? More light. But if you're shining anger or anything not light, then that's also going to show up. That's the beauty of having the world around us. We can see how we're doing by what we see around us. Doesn't mean we should be like the ostrich with its head in the sand. We see what's going on, but then we realize, I have the power to change it. All I have to do is shine my light out to wherever in the world or in my life there's darkness. That's the key. So once you start to do that, then nothing can hold you back. Then you start to achieve your potential. Interesting, isn't it? You have this biblical figure called Jacob, right? The third of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Kabbalistically, he's like one level of the culmination of all spiritual work. But he also has another name, Israel. And if you read the Bible, it says, Jacob did a lot of work and effort. He was out fighting the battle of bringing light to the world. He was out sharing. He was out connecting to the Creator, etc. And then one day it comes along, and he's blessed to become Israel, his higher self. And so I'm sharing that with us this morning to realize, as you and I sit here now, yes, we have our name. We have our abilities. We have who we think we are right now. But there's also waiting for us that higher level. Whatever that level of Israel is for us, it's waiting for us. And it can be achieved. Tell me you haven't achieved anything in your life up to now. You haven't made a difference of who you've been from childhood, I don't know, teenagers, etc. You're not different, you're the same? Different, of course. We've changed ourselves. Now we want to hold in our consciousness the highest. Who can we be? What is the form of Israel that we can be? Like Jacob achieving it. So then all we have to do is the same kind of thing. We just have to put ourselves out there to be able to share our light where there hasn't been light. And that's what spiritual growth is about. Step into some form of darkness or challenge in your life and turn on the light. Just remember, the light is already inside you. That's all you have to do. Consciousness and using the tools. I have one student here who was telling me that she got a new job, and the job required her to work on the weekend. But being that she had to work on the weekend, she wasn't able to participate in the various events we have on Saturday and Sunday here. And that meant a lot to her, to be able to come and participate, not just to receive, like we're all doing. We're not here just to receive. Yes, we have to have wisdom, we have to receive some understanding, some inspiration, but then we have to go out and share it. If it's not shared, it does us no good. Like the light that's inside of us. If we don't share it, it doesn't do us any good, but it makes us feel frustrated because I know I have so much and I'm not seeing it in my life. So what she did, she used the name we're going to use today. That's why I'm sharing you this story, because she was just telling it to me this last week. So she started to meditate on Lamed Vav Vav, Lamed Vav Vav, the name of dialing God. And she was adding her consciousness that she wanted to be able to have weekends off, not so she could go to the beach, so she'd come here and she could support the spiritual community, other people, to transform the planet. And sure enough, all of a sudden, she says, within 2 weeks, her boss comes to her and says, we're going to move you. You're going to be in this new position that you only work Monday through Friday and you have weekends off. And she's telling me, even though they're saying it, it's almost like they didn't know what they were saying, because they had to create a whole new position and they weren't even sure what the position was. It's like, okay, you'll go and you'll do this and this and this, but it's not like they had a position set that was vacated and they were putting her in. It's as if the universe recreated her business for that specific position that she could be in it, have weekends off. Now, I'm not promising you in 2 weeks your job is going to change like that. But I do promise you, as I'm sure you've all seen, that as you use the names, as you work with the technology, and as you transform, you will see that change. You will see things like that. That's what this is all about. It's changing us. Don't have to limit yourself to this one, but you have many of them. Those of you who have investigated the 72 names. You have Mem He Shin for health and healing. I can tell you some of those stories. You have Aleph Lamed Daled against evil eye, against jealousy and envy. I can tell you some of that. Samech Aleph Lamed we did a couple weeks ago for prosperity. You have all kinds of things there. Because why? It's all here. All we need is the right tool to activate it. So today, as we're deciding that we want a better life, we have to ask ourselves really one question. Look, they're already using the phone call to God. I like that. Okay. Hello, God? Yes. I'm here at the Kabbalah Center. Yes, see, yes, thank you. Okay. 50 cents. We have to just ask ourselves, how much do I want the light? And I know it sounds like an easy question, because if we understand that the light is the source of all our good, who wouldn't want all the light? But we also have to be objective with ourselves and say, but during the day, moment to moment, where is my thought? So one moment when that car is in front of me and I'm feeling frustrated, in the past I've decided I don't really want the light that much. I want to just scream and yell and vent my frustration at that driver more than I want the light. So in that moment, what do? I will scream and yell at that driver. 5 minutes later, yes, I'll feel regret that I didn't ask for the light or act like the light. That's something else. But that's spiritual growth, learning and growing, learning and growing. So the only way to grow is stretching ourselves. The beauty is to understand that technology is already set up. It's already here waiting. Yes, use the names, focus the consciousness, go out and do the acts of being God-like. And then we will be able to see that transformation of our life. And when enough of us are doing it and we're going out with this consciousness, with these tools, with this technology, we will be able to see every human being on earth united in peace on earth and goodwill towards all mankind, which is the energy of the season, is it not? And it's in our hands. So are you willing to do it? God bless.